Hello, this is Rick and Rick doing our technical and tactical podcast from the Drone Dialogues. We are going to briefly be talking about one thing that is very close to my heart, and then we're going to talk to my expert and father, Rick, about the most recent attempt on a former president's life. So, first of all, Dad, what I wanted to talk about to these guys, and if you wanted to chime in, you can. And especially after this most recent incident with Trump, I, as the chancellor of Gun X or Gun Reddit, self-appointed, one to nothing vote, one myself, decided to take the mantle because I decided to take the mantle because it's not an emotional thing for me. When it comes to guns, I don't get emotional because I am no longer a gun owner. That's a whole separate story. We'll get into it another day. But I have seen the consequences of not curbing your language while you're online. So we have, I believe her name is it's Chris something. She's a woman who works for um, uh, Moms Demanding Action, which I think I rented once from the Manassas Video Club. Uh, and then there's the Students Demand Action. Maybe that's her name. Dad, do you remember that? It's Chris something from the Moms Demand Action or one of
I
these.
can't remember what her name is.
Yeah. Anyway, her first. All I know is she has the same name as a former kicker for the Tennessee Titans. So go look that up, and then you'll know what her name is. People, and this is just a normal looking mom, uh, wearing her mom haircut, and you got people in her comments saying "stack up" or "shut the f up" or "your feelings don't trump my rights." True, but is it necessary? Now, Dad, if you're interacting with someone who is against firearms, uh, say they say we are coming for your AR-15, or you shouldn't have the right to have an AR-15, or whatever gun they want to say, what would be your first response?
Well, first of all, I'd probably just laugh. It's just because they're not going to come to my house without a warrant or anything like that. The majority of this is just rhetoric, trying to get people fired up, trying to get me to go to their side when it's not going to happen.
Bingo. They post these things to get a reaction out of you. And I am going to say this, and I don't care if it sounds sexist, but when I read you guys saying stack up or shut the F up or cursing out women online, even if they disagree with you, I think you look like a bunch of emotional women. I am going to appeal against your masculine instinct. If you are acting emotionally whenever someone talks about banning something you either just like or some of you guys you fetishize, it is a gun's what, Dad? It's a machine. It's a tool. Don't let talk about it get to your emotions. Some of
Exactly.
you some of these guys look up like straight up B words whenever it comes to guns. And okay, oh, you have a gun because you have a tiny peepee. Some of you guys just whip it out on there. Hey, you know what? If that's your answer to do, hey, it it's not mature, but it's better than cursing out a stranger and saying things like, "Oh, I hope the feds do come and try to take my guns. I'll give it to them, one bullet at a time." Dad, what are feds?
Federal agents.
And you, I have been a federal officer. You have worked for the federal government. How different are we than normal people?
Well, that's not a good comparison because you and I are kind of strange
Yeah, yeah.
and different.
But
A normal employee of the federal government is just another normal person.
yes. Now, we have spoken about this before. My dad and I agree. Is there an element of the federal government that is just pure straight leftism? They want to take your rights? Probably. I personally have known some. They care less about civilians than they do other police or agents or whatever. Um, but to assume that the entire federal government is out to get you and out to take your guns, maybe one day we'll get there, but this ain't it. And the other thing I wanted to stress, Dad, is however much we try to be calm and collected, people have feelings. If you're the sort of person who posts that you want to harm federal workers, you're posting ACAB, F the police, etc., and you get on their radar, they have feelings. And you think one that had feelings that already maybe dislikes veterans or dislikes conservatives isn't going to say, "Oh well, this guy, forget that case I'm looking at. This guy's my project now." um, yeah. So tone it down. Like Dad, we've had talks about this. Like when we were younger, someone mouths off to you, you want to get in a fist fight, you want to throw down, and now it's just like, whoa, I'm 44, you're 68. It's like we just got to go home in one piece. We got to stay out of trouble. It's not worth it.
Good points. Good points. Good points you made.
And the reason I wanted, we actually tried to record this yesterday, but I had some audio issues. But the reason I wanted to start with this part this time, because it segs into the thing with this Thomas Crooks fella. This because now is your time that you're going to see these same people saying, "Let's take away all guns," and you need to not react. You need to let your legislators do their jobs. You need to not Fed post. Oh, post your guns on X. Me, don't post your guns on X. You, I'll do what I want to do because F the feds. The Fed, who also posted his guns, says, "I'll be your Huckleberry." Anyway, so let's talk about the incident from 2 Saturdays ago, and let's talk about some things we've seen, some things we've heard. Dad, get us going on this topic of discussion.
Okay. I like to talk about the basic, I like to use the term the technology of it. What was he capable of? What was the firearm capable of? Because we've seen all kinds of stuff on the news. Every expert in the world has come out, and of course all over the internet. And I've heard things about the AR-15 that I've never heard before. And I'll start out with the rifle that he used, the DPMS. I've heard that it was a cheap, um, low low tech rifle. The DPMS is an extremely good rifle. I remember that firearm. I worked with a friend of mine, Fred Pyrie, to outfit an entire organization with it. And I spoke to Randy Luth, who used to be the owner, and I worked to get this company a bunch of these AR-15s because it is top of the line. And they made an AR-10 type also. Now, I will say the optics that this young man used, why he was using I believe it was a 5 minute of angle red dot. And what that means is a minute of angle is 1 inch at 100 yards and increases not exponentially, but the same ratio each yard line. So 2 inches at 200, 3 inches at 300. So at 100 yards, he was using a sight that projected a 5 inch circle on his target. Now, at 50 yards, that would only be a 2.5 inch circle, and at 25 yards, an inch and a quarter circle. So this sight is not really developed for long range. It's developed for tactical shooting. You bring it up and you put the red dot on the body and you pull the trigger, and you don't have to worry about aligning the rear sight with the front sight, and you get a better field of view than with the regular optical sight.
Do you remember what the brand of the site was? I might want to throw it in here so people can see.
I didn't even see the brand. I
Okay.
just knew it was a DPMS. But there's so many of these opticals now. You can buy them, made in China, made overseas. They range from $60 to thousands of dollars for depending on what your optics are. the magnification, what your use is, laser, inclusive, all these different components of it. But I understand, and I didn't see if it was a 20-inch barrel, but I would believe that it was a 16-inch barrel.
Okay.
Okay, so we figured out what he got. We figured out what type of sight he's using. Is this AR-15 capable of hitting a head at 100 yards? Absolutely. And I'm saying absolutely because I have tested so many AR-15 M16 platforms in a rack, along with shooting them from the shoulder with optics out to 600 yards. And the average AR-15, I'm talking about a junky AR-15, will shoot about a minute and a half inch group at 100 yards. So we're talking about an inch and a half. That's about an average. And it all depends on ammunition. The better the ammo, the better it shoots. Shorter the barrel, the shorter the velocity. So out of an AR-15 M16, a standard 20-inch barrel, the velocity is around 3,000 feet per second. I say around because you have 55 grain, you have 62 grain, 77 grain. You have a wide variety of ammunition. You have military ball, you have commercial, you have match grade. So when you say specifically it'll only do 2,600 feet per second, that's not true. But a good average is 29 to 3,000 feet per second. Your average barrel today is probably 14 to 16 inches. When I was in the Marine Corps, I introduced the M16A2 into the Marine Corps on behalf of the Eastern Division Championships when 6th Marine Regiment was the first one to get the gun.
And what year was that, Dad?
Oh, you had to ask me that.
I
can't.
or do you know the vicinity
80s.
of what year?
Yeah, in the 80s.
Okay.
So I remember that. And we had done all the test and evaluation at Quantico and tested that gun extensively. And I can tell you this because we shot a bunch of Colt H-bars. The Colt H-bar with match grade, just federal 69 grain ammunition will shoot a 7-minute of angle group. I'm telling you that as a fact. And we shot it to up to 600 yards just to see if the wind would affect it. Because now when we talk about ballistics, we're talking about wind. There's no wind effect at 100 yards unless there was a gale force wind blowing, but the little bit of amount of wind this gentleman was shooting with, and you can just see the trees swaying, and there was no swaying in the trees. There was no wind.
Yeah.
It looked like a wind state. So now we've got a firearm that's capable of hitting a head easily at 100 yards. But we have an optic that makes it more difficult. So had he just put this red dot on the head, and if the gun was zero. Now, what does zero mean? That means my front sight post and my rear sight aperture are aligned with the bullet impact at a certain distance, or my scope, my center of the scope crosshair dot is aligned with the impact of the bullet at a certain distance. And with a red dot, my red dot is aligned with a target, whatever it may be, and the bullet at a certain distance. And this distance was approximately 130 yards. So the change in elevation zero from 100 to 130, we're talking about minuscule. We're talking about maybe a half inch.
And it's gonna sound a lot of like repeating stuff because, like I said, we tried this podcast yesterday. But I had mentioned once you get to further distances, shooting isn't a straight line; it's a parabola. But we're talking like after at least 200, 300 meters. It is just as close to straight as it is ever going to be at 150 meters.
Well, when a bullet comes out of a barrel, gravity immediately has an effect on it. The faster the bullet, the faster it's traveling, the less of effect it has. So you have what's called line of sight and line of flight. Line of flight is the actual bullet flight. So when it comes out of a barrel, it starts to drop, and it's dropping. But you've got your sight that you adjust so the barrel makes the trajectory go upwards, and like you said, a parabola, and then it comes down in an arc to where it starts coming down. So your line of flight crosses your line of sight twice. It'll cross it when it leaves the muzzle, and then it crosses wherever the impact is, and your firearm is zeroed.
Okay.
Some people have done some good work on this recently, but this is not new. We've been doing this for hundreds of years. Ever since the military's been shooting firearms, we've been doing this. And myself and Jeff Ulrich, who's dead, he was an ATF agent, former Marine, and an incredible shooter. Him and I put together a PowerPoint presentation, and once I dig it up, I'll put it on my website. But that's what we talk about, and I'm going to hit minute of angle also.
Okay.
Minute of angle is an actual math calculation. But what people did is they took that math calculation and they made it approximate and put it into the optics of your sights. So you have scopes that are quarter minute angle, quarter minute, half minute, full minute, and third minute. So which every time I turn a click on my scope, it moves it that increment. If it's a quarter minute, one increment is a quarter minute and 100 yards. You can't work the formula out into a mechanical device. So your minute of angle is a formula based on the angles in a circle. So what people did, they just took it and said, okay, we're going to make a minute of angle 1 minute, 1 inch. It actually isn't an inch, but how are we going to do that with the optics? So we said, we're going to make it 1 inch. And when they first came out, each click could have been a 1 inch. Then it was a half inch, then quarter inch, and then third of an inch. Depends on what type of device.
Yeah, and
So
you also have some scopes that sit much higher than other ones. Some are that
absolutely.
close. Some like I know the M1A that I used to have. It was quite a bit above the barrel.
Yes, the M1A is probably from the line of bore is probably 3 inches,
Yeah.
which means you're aiming from the line of sight here, your line of flight, and your line of sight here. So you have to make a more radical adjustment
Yeah.
at close distances to get them to match up at a certain distance. So I just wanted to get this out of the way. Let's talk about the ballistics. We're talking about speed. We're talking about velocity. We don't know what type of ammunition he used yet.
Yeah.
We don't know how good his zero was. Did he have a great zero? I would have never aimed for the head. I would have aimed for center mass.
Hey, so I'm gonna ask, and I meant to ask this yesterday. The movement of the head. What is the first movie that comes to mind? Don't answer yet. Where someone takes a headshot, and because of the movement of the head, they miss. What classic movie did it remind you of?
I can't place it.
I'll give you a hint. It takes place in France.
Oh, Day of the Jackal, of course.
Day of the Jackal.
One of the best books ever. And the first Day of the Jackal is good.
But yeah, great book too. Don't watch the Richard Gere Bruce Willis remake, The Day of the Jackal, directed by Fred Zinnemann, one of my favorite movies. But I remember when we're watching, and you said while we watched this, you probably don't remember. You said he took a headshot because he was arrogant and overconfident.
Now, I will tell you this, and I had this discussion just recently. Police officers have more of an opportunity for a headshot in hostage situations than the military does.
It's almost a
Because,
requirement sometimes, especially if,
yes.
hostage like this.
So I think local police should practice a headshot much more than, because, like you said, he's in a bank, shoot him in the head, something like that.
Yeah.
If you're a military sniper or military, but on the other hand, they shouldn't be calling policemen snipers. They're not snipers. They should be called marksmen or designated marksmen, something like that.
Well, also, and not to get too off topic here, I have read people saying, "Oh, well, this Navy SEAL sniper said so," and for every branch except for which branch, every branch except for which branch, sniper is your secondary duty. There is one branch of the military where sniper is your primary job, and that is the United States Marine Corps. So unless you're telling me some guy who was a scout sniper said it, may as well be a guy in the street who's a great shot.
So yeah, you're right. Let's get back onto the
Okay,
ballistics.
yeah.
So this shot hitting him on the ear with the right optics and the right gun is possible. Had I been the person wanting to shoot this somebody, I wouldn't have gone an AR-15. I would have gone looking for a used Remington 700, 243, 308, 30-06, 270, 6mm, one of those guns that has, especially like the 243 or the 22 250. Holy crap! That gun is so accurate out of the box. Ammunition, it's unbelievable. You pick up a used 243, a used 22 250, put a cheap Tasco 3x9 on it, zeroed it 100 yards, and you could have aimed at his nose and hit his nose. You know, the guns are that accurate with the ammunition out of the box. I hate to say that I said this because I hope nobody gets the idea. Well, hell, let me go buy me a used bolt gun at the pawn shop.
Yeah. So just to let's put that little caveat. Both you and I are supporting Trump this election, and we're happy he survived. Correct? Let's just put it out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's phenomenal.
I'm not even a Republican, and I'm supporting him. So there.
So ballistically, he could have hit him on the ear. Do I think he was aiming at the ear with this 5-inch aiming pie? Absolutely not. I think that he rushed his shot
because a cop was coming up on the roof, so he had to rush his shot at that point.
And he probably had a 100-yard zero, and he made the mistake of aiming for the head.
Yeah.
Which was a great positive mistake, that he took a headshot, and due to the grace of God, he got hit in the ear, and everything is now history.
Yeah, and I would just like to debunk some speculation. This is where I'll go back to my knowledge as a former hospital corpsman, who and let's I was trained in pre-hospital trauma life support, and I actually was a pre-hospital trauma life support instructor my last year in the military at Quantico. So there are people saying he didn't get hit by the bullet, it was a piece of glass. First of all, even if that was true, it would still register as an assassination attempt. Sorry, my cats are saying hi. So even if it was a piece of glass. Second of all, to try to say, I always say is people think you get hit by an AR-15, half of your face is gone. You know, we talked about it, but there are these people who believe if a bullet goes by your face, that it tears your skin off. There was this rumor that was debunked by one of these channels that if you shot a 50 cal and it went by someone's head, it would kill you. This isn't true. There's cavitation. If a bullet does not enter your body, you're not going to have the energy to cause cavitation. You might have a little burn next to your face. Just the way that the cartilage, especially the cartilage of the ear, is structured, it is a tougher structure than an earlobe. Now, I have seen videos where someone they precisely shot through an ear. You saw it well up and go back. They use like that gel. But you have to use a different substance to impersonate, or rather to mimic, the texture of hard cartilage in your ear. It's why if you go to get your ear pierced, whenever they go through your earlobe, it's a whole different process to going through here. It's has a lot of capillaries. You can just put a light through your ear and it looks red because you have so many capillaries. You are going to have a lot of blood. Had his head been turned this way instead of this way, it likely goes into his cerebrum, which then causes cavitation to the cerebellum. It's probably a survivable shot, but let's just say Trump would be as disabled as Joe Biden is now if he'd had cavitation into the back of his cerebellum. So yes, he did turn. It did hit his ear. It was most likely, what I'm guessing is he had him right here, and then he leans forward, and the bullet goes that way. And let's not forget, someone did die in this incident. So if people want to get all political, that's up to them. What we are talking the technical and tactical. All right.
Now I will let me finish with this
Okay, go ahead.
because I grew up shooting iron sights.
So did I.
We learned how to hold over. You shooting, especially when shooting out 600 yards competition, and you could, and the wind's blowing, and you can see the wind blowing, and you don't want to make a wind change. You would just hold left or right. So if somebody was an extremely good shot and he put that red dot on a target at 100 yards
Mm-hmm.
and continuously held over, up, low, right, left, and practice holding on his head target like half of a red dot to the left to see where it impacted, half of a red dot to the right, up and down. He could potentially get an earshot on that stationary target, his stationary head target.
Yeah.
But the human head, especially politicians that are talking, is always moving. I mean, that's what they do. They're trying to get eye contact with as many people as they can in the audience, and they're talking with their hands, they're talking with their mouth, their eyes. So the headshot wasn't a practical shot. So do I think this was staged and somebody shot him in the ear with an AR-15 and a 5-minute red dot scope? Absolutely not. I think it was by the grace of God that this young man went up there and gave his life for the United States, and that Trump survived. But before some of these, before a lot of these people start making comments, they need to go to the range. Go to the range, not by themselves. Take somebody who can shoot, get some ballistic gel, get some head size targets, copy your own head, make a target, draw some mirrors, shoot it. And even good shooters will see what their capabilities are with this red dot scope versus a 4 to 14 Leopold or Light Force or all of these really high end scopes that are out there today with automatic range designators. There's a whole different story when you go into the range and apply what you think happened to determine what really happened.
Yeah, this is an excellent point. Um, because they'll call people like us FUDs for saying iron sights are the way to go. Simple, and so as you know, there are a lot of these people, a lot of these ninjas online, especially on GunX. God bless them, love them to death. But they're always talking about, oh yeah, if stuff goes down and I have to go off to the woods and I have to fight against the U.S. military. Listen, and I'll
I,
be
I
I'll be the first one to say these poo poo people who say, "Are you going to fight against F-16s and F-35s? We'll nuke you." Like, first of all, you're insane if you think that we're going to nuke our own country. First of all, second of all, I would like to bring you to a little thing called the Tet Offensive to the Viet Cong. I would like to remind you of how many decades Afghanistan has just been able to hold still. But let's get that out of the way. But like people who make that argument are ridiculous. But if you are ever in a situation where you have to go months without, you know, resources, are you going to bring a battery charger? Where are you gonna charge it to? Where are you gonna buy new batteries? Um, Always train as paleolithically as you can. Always assume that technology at some point is not going to be available. Would you agree with that?
agree, and I don't want to get into it, but maybe at a later time. Fred and I discussed it. Ready bags.
Yeah,
When I see people with a 4 foot ready bag at the door that weighs about 60 pounds, and you're exactly right. What are you taking with you? I tell people get something, a ready bag for each of their children, uh, in case of fire or something happens at your house, because you just need to have that extra phone, that money, shoes, a shirt, a pair of trousers, a couple of candy bars, a couple bottles of water, so that you can get to somebody's house. In the event that we have a civil war, a ready bag that weighs 60 pounds, it may benefit you a short time, but you need to really think about getting into war with your own country. Do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not. Do I think there'll be radicals uh, who will fight the government? We've already had them. Ruby Ridge, David Koresh, the guy who did all the abortion bombings right here in North Carolina, actually.
Oh gosh,
And
I can't
and so
remember
we
his name.
already have the individuals that have gone off and lived on their own. But it takes, a home and a house and a place to stay. But anyway, we covered the ballistics of it. If anybody has any questions or is willing to do um, a test of this nature, uh, uh, and I mean a real test. I don't mean let's go to the range and shoot and play and make sure my hair looks pretty when I comb it out. I mean a real test with ballistic gel, heads, stuff like that. Then I would be willing to do that because we've done this test already. They've all been done. We've all done the line of flight, line of sight. It's just that I guess with the media, the faster you get your little test out, however you may do it, the better off you are.
I I'm literally googling right now strongest Rogaine possible so that I too can grow out my hair and make cool videos, and then and maybe I too can run for Congress one day.
That was not necessary there. And in closing, and in closing, uh, let's Trump stay safe and let's keep our nation safe.
Hey, Dad, thanks for doing this podcast with me yet again. Thanks for redoing it, and hopefully now that we had a second try at it, it is a little more concise. I'm looking at the clock right now. Hey,
All right.
hey, everyone, stay safe. Have a good one. Stop Fed posting. Stop threatening people online. And from Rick and Rick, have a great day.
I'll see you next week.
Yep.